Hello and welcome to the Tech Home Builder Weekly Webcast. I'm your host, John Galante, president of AE Ventures, and we're experimenting with a new type of webcast today, kind of a people you should know sort of session. And so our guinea pig alpha test is Gordon Van Zuiden, or as we've started to call him, GVZ, who is the president and founder of cyberManor in Los Gatos, California. That's the cat, I believe, in Spanish.
Correct.
And Gordon's someone I've known for probably a couple of decades now, and he's got an interesting story and is really in an interesting place with his company. And so he's a perfect subject for this first People You Should Know session. So, Gordon, let's just start off with a little bit about the company and what your scope of work is as a company.
All right. Well, first off, John, thanks very much for having me on. It's during these times when we're indoors more often than we probably would like. This is a nice way to spend a morning. So, by background, without getting too long about this, but started cyberManor in '99. As you said, we've kind of known each other almost since we started the company for a couple decades. And it was really based on my previous company knowledge, which was basically an integrator for information technology in the commercial space. So we started in the mid '80s when the PC kind of rolled out, and we were at the kind of the beginning of putting PCs together on local area networks and on wide area networks, all for enterprise activities. So that was a robust industry through the 80s and through the 90s, continues to be. But we sold our business in the late 90s. And the expertise that I had really back then was really integrating microcomputers back then together to create these LANs for businesses. And our children were at the ages of, I think, 6 and 8 and going to school. And we were just we had AOL at our home. And we were just converting to the first stages of cable modem. And suddenly we had a service to the house, which was always on, was much, much faster, and gave us the opportunity to have feature sets in the home that we were always enjoying in the enterprise with T1 lines and the like. And so I thought if we can combine a couple PCs together in the home, like we did in the enterprise, and some printers and maybe some hard drives, then everybody could share the internet inside the home. This was long before there were Linksys routers and Netgear. They were all enterprise grade. And we started cyberManor really was as a way to leverage the internet utility in the home office. And with that as kind of our roots, it really helped us get a leg up on where the home was going, because the home was obviously moving in a direction where not only would the office be connected, but Sonos comes along and music becomes connected, Kaleidoscape comes along and movies get connected, Control4 comes along and control systems get connected, and on and on and on. We all seen these graphs which show the number of internet connected devices over the last 2 decades has grown exponentially. And so we followed that curve. And so I like to think that we followed the router and the switch in the home, and it used to be a 4-port, 10 megabit per second switch. Now in homes, it's 48-port, 96-port, gigabit, 10 gigabit. And that really is the signature of what the home looks like today. And that means that everything is connected. Everything is at high speeds, talking to one another, talking to the cloud, talking to iPhones, working with voice. And so cyberManor really kind of rode that wave, so to speak, to continue our work outside the office, going into the theater, going into the TV room, going into the yard. And today, and there's no room in the house, the bathroom, the kitchen, the outside, that isn't affected by technology. And we are I guess you would consider ourselves general practitioners of technology.
Yeah.
We're experts in a couple areas: audio, video, lighting control, motorized window treatments. But people come to us with a set of plans to be the GP, general practitioner of all things technology, and then we provide that work.
An initial core of the business was that IT networking piece, though, right? Was that your number one application for a good long while, and then you started to bridge into the entertainment category and such?
Yeah, that's exactly. So the first 3 or 4 years, I really reached out to all the AV, the CEDIA, and other integrators in the Bay Area and said, hey, if you're getting questions about some of this data stuff, which they were in the early 2000s, I'll help you with that. I don't know anything about the AV side of the equation, but I can certainly set up the panel and connectivity to the network. And then where there are connections that you need for AV, I can provide that and provide that knowledge. Well, what I soon realized is my portion of the invoice to the client was like 3 or 4,000, and their portion of the invoice to the client was 50 to 60 or 80,000 because they were selling amplifiers and speakers and TVs. And I said, it'd be nice if I could just learn a little more about AV, then maybe I could add some value to what we're trying to do. So while I initially had this kind of exclusivity where I just did data, they did AV, within a few years, then I hired a couple AV people on staff, and they'll provide a more comprehensive solution. And that's how we got into the AV business.
Yeah. So as the company's configured today, what are your key differentiators? What's your brand promise? What do you guys stand on?
So I think, and I think what makes us somewhat unique, it's always, I always love the Wayne Gretzky quote about if you're successful, you're trying to go to where the puck is going and not where the puck is. And so we always try to look out what's the next iteration. Even the network in the home was kind of that back in the early 2000s. Now, obviously, that's de facto standard. So where do we think it's going, and what do we think how we differentiate ourselves was a big part of why we built this showcase home. Not just a showcase media center, not just a showcase theater, not just a showcase wall, but a home, because we strongly believe that, as I said, we really are going to be responsible for all elements of technology in the home, either ourselves or through strategic partnerships with people who do some of the other work. And so, that's why we've developed relationships now with Kohler and Intelligence they're providing the kitchen space or in the bath space, and why we're working with BSH Group and the intelligence they have in the kitchen space. And I think what's important to understand is we still understand that our core strength is going to be audio, video, whole house audio, video, lighting, security cameras, motorized window treatments, pretty much the core of any custom integrator's business. But the fact that we can speak knowledgeably about what's happening in these other areas, I think makes people feel like they can at least come to one place for all these technologies, and then we can partner with others. A case in point, just yesterday I was doing a tour of our showroom, and of course we can show the television sets and motorized screens and shades, as I said, all the things we normally do. But what the customer was really most intrigued by was the Control 4 and Josh controlling the motorized VLX skylights up in the ceiling. And we don't normally think of ourselves in the skylight business, and I'm not, but we are in window treatment and lighting control, and so we'll develop relationships with people that are in this skylight business, and they'll put them in. But there's now contact closures for those, and we can talk to them via Control 4. That we don't have to rely on just their control systems. And suddenly we find ourselves with another part of the solution that the client is engaged in. And of course, if that's really is what intrigued them, then all window treatments and motorized control, whether it's Lutron or Control 4 or others, are part of the conversation. So I think that's what we try to make as a differentiator. And from when I talk to my peers and hear from others, there's typically concern about venturing into these new areas for which they don't have expertise. It's already complicated enough just to know what we do on a day-to-day basis. And I fully get that. And so we have to tread into those areas carefully. And that's why we built this home, so that we can learn and vet and R&D these things and understand them and really recognize when we feel they're ready for prime time and we have the expertise to support them.
Yeah. So we'll get deeper into this stuff, but for a second, let's just step back and talk about core values for you and the company. It sounds like innovation being a step ahead, not too far ahead, but a step ahead of kind of state of the market or anticipating those trends is one of them. What other core values would you say cyberManor has?
Well, I think, to be in this business or almost any business for, a couple of decades, when so many things change, especially in this one, as our industry does, a core value always has to be the building an ongoing relationship and trust you have with clients. Somewhat unique to this business, with clients that we served two decades ago are still clients of ours today. Because you can just imagine the stuff that we put in 2005, 2008, 2009, mostly analog-based equipment and much, much slower, all has to be replaced by this point in time. And so the only way that we can maintain through the recessions and through COVID and through changes in the economy is to have really a strong base of existing clients who refer us to other clients. And so at the core of that for what we do, since we add to people's entertainment and their comfort and their security systems, is that we have to be responsive. At the core of it is not only do we put this stuff in, but we have to be there when these things break. And they're all going to break, and they're going to break at inconvenient times. So the ability to provide an ongoing level of service and support over a long period of time, I think is really at our core value. And to acknowledge, like any business, that the customer is king to our business, and their satisfaction guarantees our future success.
Yeah. And what about you personally as a leader? What are your strengths? What's the unique ingredient that Gordon brings to the equation, whether that's customer facing or inside the company?
I think about that from time to time, and in all honesty, I don't think I'm really that good a leader, to be honest with you. I think if anything, what I try to do is just surround myself with people who really are very, very skilled. So they don't need a lot of leading. So when I look at the staff, we have about 10 people. They're, for the most part, all very much veterans. And obviously, when we bring people in, they become mentors for the new people we bring in. So I think if I would say the things that have worked out the best is we've been able to point the ship in the right direction for the most part for all of these years. I kind of get out of the way and let good people do what they need to do best. And then I feel very strongly that I try to provide everyone with the tools that they need to do their best job. So there's really, whether it's in the van or their tools or the showroom or the office setting, just create the best environment that they could be at their best. And so, pay people more for that. The place, the home that we have and the building that we bought, I think I'll try to represent things that I try to do to create a stage that they have talent and then they can present their talent in the best way possible.
Right. Now, you've been very active in the industry, in the electronics, the technology industry in particular. Why? Why are you so active? What's the benefit to you? What are you trying to accomplish by being as connected as you are in organizations like CEDIA?
Well, I mean, for the simple, obviously I enjoy it. But I think the reason I enjoy it, to be, again, candid, I don't think of myself as particularly altruistic. There's a lot of things, we're having a lot of challenges with COVID and fires here in Northern California. And I read all these stories about people who really reach out and help people out in their real times of need. And that doesn't come that naturally to me, but I still like to think that at least with what I do professionally, I can give back. So if I can give back some of the things that have worked for us to the integrator community, people who are starting out as I did 2 decades ago and come up to me at CEDIA at the various trade shows, and they've listened to one of my classes or they read one of my columns and it's really helped them out in business. Well, that's personally very, very satisfying. I think there's a number of us who volunteer for CEDIA and others that's why we do it. It's, we are very much a family of professionals. It's not a huge group. We all get to know each other over a number of years. And I think we as a family like to take care of each other. And when we do these things that make us all stronger and better, it's a good feeling. So that's probably why I do it.
Yeah. So let's talk about builder relationships. How long have you been partnering with home builders? And what's the journey been with builders? How has the relationship and the partnership evolved over the years?
So, it's a good question, and that's always very key to our success. I think it's important to understand the relationship that we and probably a lot of my peers have is with the custom home builder community. as opposed to the production home builders. That their needs and wants are quite different than what we can provide. And almost every time we've tried to work with a production builder, we just don't scale and don't have the service offerings that meet their needs very effectively. So, but for the custom builder, that's our sweet spot. And so what we find in the realm of custom builders, there are, and I think by definition, they build from anywhere from 3 homes to maybe 100 homes. They're almost all built either uniquely for a client or they're spec, but they're really kind of one-off kind of spec homes. And so the builder relationships that are the best and the ones that I really aspire towards and really I think at the end of the day serve the client the best are the builders who run their business and say, okay, if you're looking for an AV integrator, home technology integrator, cyberManor is your partner. And you're looking for an electrician, ABC is your partner. And you're looking for an interior design, and so it's really more and more important that it's a team effort, especially in technology where I'm not going to be bending sheet metal to do HVAC, but I'm controlling it. I'm not going to be putting in a pool, but I'm controlling it. I'm not putting in the front gate, but I'm controlling it. And so for that synergy of all of our professions to work well and seamless for the client, we have to work really well as a team. So I think, in my opinion, what the custom builder can do best is when they become kind of the conductor of the best team of subs that they could possibly find for a client. And we do best when we become that part of that A list of integrators for what they need. And we have a number of custom builders that really don't go to anybody else. And obviously the challenge is if a homeowner comes in and says, well, I have my own designer, I have my own AV integrator, or my own electrician. That's difficult because at the end of the day, the builder has to satisfy that spec customer. But if they're strong enough and they tell the client, hey, go to cyberManor, see the showroom, understand you have your own integrator from the past, but at least listen to these guys, see what they have to say and see if that makes sense for you. And that being that kind of a proponent of us and starting a conversation and realizing that we've worked well with them goes a long way towards facilitating those long-term relationships. So those are the best. There's other custom builders that they kind of let every project manager lead who they want to bring in as their subs. And the main builder founder kind of has more of a hands-off. Those are more challenging because you don't have that kind of consistency. So, it's really one where it's just like with the client, it's a matter of trust. The builder has to trust you're not going to screw up their project. You're not going to be late. The client's going to be happy after they move in with the stuff that they put in, and they're going to say good things about the builder and about us. So that's kind of what it's about.
Can you walk me through, and hopefully be quickly, I know building a home is a long project, but where are your points of interface and intersection with both the client and the builders and other trades? What are some of the key points from a process integration standpoint when it's working really well?
Right. So in its optimal phase, there's 2 primary kinds, well, maybe 3 kinds of jobs that we'll do. The largest ones are typically going to be new construction, custom, and those start with the original design. And I just met with somebody yesterday. The plans have been drawn, permits are about to be pulled, but they won't break ground for 6 months. But those are very large, significant projects because we can potentially do a number of things. The other is it's a new home, it's a remodel, and the sheetrock's on the floor, and the installation's ready to go in, and a week beforehand, and they say, shit, we've got to remember to put some of this low voltage in because otherwise we're kind of screwed on a couple of things we've heard. Not everything is Wi-Fi. So you get that, and then you just get the regular just kind of service and upgrade and things that are already in place. But the first one is the most interesting, has the longest gestation. And these people, for instance, yesterday, they're not going to be building for another 6 months. So the challenge there, I think, for a business like ourselves is we typically, most of us run by day-to-day fires. So you really can only respond to things that's either going to be a fire or potentially put revenue in your pocket in a near term. And to plant seeds for 6 months down the road, a year down the road, is difficult sometimes to justify when your day is as busy as it normally is. Now, we're in the fortunate position that I kind of, as a founder, I've kind of broken off, and I really work on business development, new business opportunities, do the kinds of things, do this, these chats with you and others. and let somebody else run the day-to-day. Make sure that they're doing basically the operations part of it and getting the cash flow that we need and turning the jobs that we need, so that when these long-term opportunities come along, I'm happy to plant the seed and happy to do that kind of long-term dance. And then when they're ready and they've got their plans and they've broken ground and the wood is up, then they can sit with Patrick Rosengarten and say, okay, we now have done our homework. We know what we need. We have our team. And these are all those specific things we'd like a proposal on. And so that's worked out fairly well, that kind of process.
Planting the seed is a meeting with the client to do some sort of intake and really understand which feature sets are going to be important for them, and coordinating then upfront with the builder to make sure that this is going to be accommodated from a planning perspective, that you're going to have the right timing to impact on the plans and the overall trade coordination. Is that what planting the seed means, or is it something different than that?
Let me be maybe a little more specific. So first off, I should say 9 times out of 10, homeowners the builder's kind of their first thing they've already picked. So architect and builders, they've kind of already done that.
Yeah.
So they come to us, and I think what we like to do now, because we have this showroom home and I have the time to do it, is rather than they come to us and say, okay, we kind of know what we want. We need this proposal. We need this bid. Tell us what you can do. At this point, we all like to kind of step back and say, if you got the time and the inclination, we'd like to educate you on all that's possible, because this is what we do for a living. And for the most part, this is probably not what they do for a living. And we know pretty well probably what you're going to want or what you may want in the near term or what you might want in the longer term. And so if you'll step back with us and let us show you all that's possible and let you kind of get an idea of all the various elements that you could do to enrich the home you're building or remodeling, then from that, you'll have the greatest level of knowledge, and then we can dive into the very specific things you want. So by planting the seed, I think what we're trying to establish right at the very first moment, since we can't shake hands anymore, is to develop a sense that these people know what they're talking about. They've done it for a long time. They're going to be around. We could trust them. They seem to be agnostic to a number of things. They just want to provide us the best products and services for our needs. We try to develop that level of trust, in the first half hour. That's the seed we're trying to plant.
Yeah, so it's almost educational, and in a non-COVID environment, you'd be having your showroom as the principal place to do that education, or are you able to do it even in the environment right now?
So we are, and I should emphasize, that those first couple of times, nothing about selling. This is strictly about information. Fortunately, we're in a category, in an area where people really want to absorb this kind of information.
Yeah.
We've got bits and pieces from a lot of different places, but to see it all in one place from somebody who's done it for a couple decades.
What do you call this session? What's the label you put on it, moniker?
I don't know if I think of a label. It's kind of
call it an appointment, or
an appointment. Yes, an appointment for a showroom tour. And
showroom tour.
Sure, yeah. So we're not looking that they go in, they say, yep, we're going to buy this. Tell us how to buy it, and we're going to go with it. What we're looking for is that, they're going to be one that increasingly they want to engage with cyberManor. This is so much about a relationship and partnership, because there are so many aspects in the custom space that they're give and take. And so we just have to know up front that some of the things we're going to do well, some of the things we're going to fall back on, but we're going to keep trying, and vice versa. So
how long does a showroom tour, like that label, it's important what you call things, right? I remember I met with the Polk Audio guys. They told me, if you call it a back box for an in-wall speaker, you can charge $50. If you call it a performance enclosure, it's $150.
Right.
Names are really important.
Yeah, I probably could think about it a little bit more. Yeah, it is a form of consultation. So they typically will take, most people have about an hour and 15 minutes to spend. And to your point about how things are progressing during this shelter in place that we're in, it certainly is true. We can't have any of the major events that we planned when we opened this thing literally up the time COVID hit. So we can't do that, and we can't have big groups. But increasingly, Smaller groups of a couple, 2 or 3 are coming in. We all wear masks. It's all very well ventilated. We can talk about some of the touchless technologies that we've incorporated, which resonate today.
Yeah.
So, and then I think we were talking about this a little bit earlier. We know going forward, the business will have two marketing branches. There'll be the one we've always done, which is the physical presence and events and brochures and website, but increasingly the virtual world is going to be important. And so this weekend, we're actually doing a Matterport video of our showroom. So we'll have a Matterport video that lets you interactively walk through the showroom, and there'll be pop-ups with the various technology highlights. Yeah. And then we're going to do a separate drone video, which is more of a sit-back experience. And for 2 minutes, you can kind of fly through over the building and through it. And that'll just let us reach out to whoever and wants to see what we've done, but gives us another way to tell our story.
That's cool. I think we've heard, unless we've missed anything on the showroom, is there anything you want to articulate about, what's in there, or have we really kind of captured it along the way in the conversation here?
I could dive a little bit deeper, but let me back up and even describe the motivation for why we built something like this. So number one was we really wanted to create a beautiful place because our clients have beautiful homes, and it was really important. And 80% of the budget didn't go to technology, went to creating an attractive, location. Because we'd done a lot of sunset homes and dream houses for builders who were showcasing the best of what they could do as builders. And we were asked to be the technology provider to these wonderful homes, which had great landscaping, great architecture, wonderful, wallpapering design and lighting fixtures and so on. And we'd go in and we'd do these homes like Sunset, and people would walk through by the hundreds and sometimes thousands. And the technology that we thought was so important was barely ever mentioned. It was kind of in the back room, and most of the docents didn't really understand what we were providing. And I felt like, gosh, they were so critical to the entertainment and comfort and security of the home, and yet it was being lost in the glory of the home's appeal and the aesthetics and so forth. And I said, it's time to showcase what we do front and center, to become the Sunset Homes of technologies, but do it in such a way that it's elegant. They walk into the room and they're still impressed by the quartz marble tops and the wood floor and the shade treatment. But when I say, okay, Josh, I'm home, or the A word, I'm home, and it comes to life, and all these devices wake up, the shades rise, the lights go on, the music plays, or vice versa, those things turn off, then people understand, that the connected, increasingly smart home is really relevant to the way they want to live. And so, I think that was the real motivation for building it. It's the sense that it's time for technology to show up as something that is integral to the appeal of the house. And we're already seeing that. There's a reason Lennar is now in the production home space. I went to one of Lennar's homes over the weekend as a major proponent of the smart home and the Wi-Fi kind of home, because they know that the new home buyer and increasingly even the older home buyers are going to have to, and nothing probably spurred that more than what we're going through right now. You can't be in your home without a good internet connection.
Yeah, it really accelerated the trend, right? We had builders on the way.
Yes.
Now it's not a question of if, it's a question of when and how and with what partners, really, for most builders. And what I will continue to encourage the technology industry to do, and you do this kind of naturally, it's just come with full-blown solutions for builders versus coming at builders in pieces and parts. And that's about the scope of products, but it's also about having support for the builders' processes that's fully fledged too. So I think if the technology industry can step up, not just with product, but with process to the builders' needs and interests, we've got a hell of a moment for the tech home, really, right now. And we have this dynamism in the market, Gordon. I mean, we certainly starts were down for the first half, but they're going to be really up, and especially in single family. Then we've got these liberal work from home policies. People are fleeing the city centers to the suburbs where home building, single family home building has typically been, that's their sweet spot. So we have a little bit of a boomlet here, and tech is clearly, especially this broad scope of tech that you've captured in your showroom, which isn't just the low voltage and the AV, but tech in the lighting and the electrical and the HVAC. It's one of the main reasons people are looking at new homes. So it's really an interesting kind of magical moment, and players like should be a big part of that mix going forward.
The way I like to think of it is, we got we saw Hamilton live, and then now with everybody at home, we got to see Hamilton again in the streaming format. I think it was on Disney Plus. And there's one particular song and music that keeps resonating with me and that I keep relating to. And it was, I forget who it was, but you want to be in the room where it happens. There was this dialogue about, when I think the Constitution was inked out or whatever it was, that the birth of the United States, that critical moment when the negotiations were going on between the North and the South, and the new nation was born, that was the room where it happened. And I think us as custom integrators have always wanted to be in the room where it happens. And my definition of where the room where it happens is that first meeting with the client and the builder and maybe the interior designer, perhaps the electrician. We've always been kind of that second fiddle, that the room where it happens is these key players that are the ones that the builder thinks are the most important to get this home off to a good start. And all we're asking is to be in that room at the beginning. And so I think now the recognition that our low voltage trade is as significant as the line voltage trade in terms of the importance of the home will give us increasingly the chance to be early on and be part of what's happening in that house and the room where it happens, and give us the stature and the credibility that we need to do our job well.
I think that's a great note for us to end this conversation on. CyberManor and Gordon should certainly be in the room for Northern California custom builders, especially with their tech clientele and your expertise, long expertise in that IT side of things. So we'll be sure to get Gordon's information up on the screen at the end of this session. And thanks for being our guinea pig for people you should know.
Hey, it's as I said, it's an honor to do this. It's all a real pleasure, and look forward to meeting everybody again in person as soon as possible.
See you soon. Thanks, Gordon.
All right. Thanks, John. Bye, guys.